My way home across the Grand Mirage. Ever since
Hi, I'm Alison Arngrim. It's the Alison Arngrim Show. Okay, some of you may remember me as evil Nellie Olson from Little House on the Prairie. But tonight I'm Alison Arngrim, and this is the Alison Arngrim Show. And here on the Alison Arngrim Show, we talk about things that make you feel good. The TV shows and the movies that made us feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. And I got a live one tonight. Yes, some of you saw on Facebook when I said, he's coming on the show, and you went crazy because yes, okay, a star in his own right from many, many movies, but a man who was on Little House on the Prairie twice. And in one of those characters where you're not supposed to notice that it was like the same guy, totally like the other episode, because nobody watches shows back to back then, and now it freaks everyone out. But yes, from Escape to Witch Mountain, from Star Trek to everything. Yes, the wonderful, absolutely charming, lovely person, Mr. Ike Eisenmann.
Hello. Thank you so much. That's what a wonderful introduction. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to do this with you because I have sort of not sort of, but joined the much more of the social media world this year, and I'm also doing a podcast and a YouTube channel with my my co-host Jonathan Rosen, an author, and we've got a show called Pop Culture Retro. And you were just on a couple weeks ago, and we had so much fun. And I was incredibly honored that you asked me to be on your show, and so here we are to have a little fun.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. It was great. We're taking turns. I did your show, you did my show. That's great. Yeah. And we have reconnected for the whatever 80 billion time over the last 50 odd years, whatever it's been, because you're a documentary, and
yes,
it's like the nuttiest documentary. And I know Andy Steinlein, I know other people involved. I get this call. There's this documentary, Dear Ike, Lost Letters to a Teen Idol. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, no, you have to see this thing. You have to see this thing. No, Ike's in it. Ike gets interviewed. You have to come in. I'm like, what the? And I go to the thing. I was in fits for those. You're going to have to go see this documentary. In fact, Friday, December 10th. Where is it? Oh, it's on Wilshire. It's at the Music Hall Theater on Wilshire in LA this Friday at 7.
Yes, the Lumiere Cinema at the historic Music Hall Theater. Yes, exactly.
And the website is what? Isn't the website Dear Ike? Just like
it's dearike.com.
Dearike.com. This thing is hilarious. It's about this guy who, very ordinary person, who decides he's drawing these cartoons and he wants to be animated and wants to make this cartoon and I want Ike Eisenmann to star in it because I really like Ike Eisenmann. So, but it's pre-internet, so he has like no idea how to reach out. So he's writing these fan letters, and it's so insanely random because he doesn't know where to write to him. It's not like he got the internet. Oh, he's here. So he's like, I'll try the studio. I'll try his agency. And this goes on for years, and like the letters are going to some black hole. It's like Ike isn't even getting them, and it goes on the interview. This guy, and it goes on. He's like junior high and high school. His family are interviewed, and friends are like, and we thought he was crazy, and but he does pursue his dream, and then eventually Ike actually pops and goes, so I got these letters, and it's one of those weird synchronicity, fabulous things. And thank heaven somebody did make a documentary about this because it's like a totally unbelievable story. And it's also freaking hilarious and touching at the same time. And you are,
it's really a little hard to comprehend. You did a great job of describing it. And I even when, there was a third party, our friend Andy Steinlein, who is the producer of this, is very dear friends with Dion Labriola, the filmmaker, who spent his life trying to reach out to me. Where I cannot say I did not receive his letters, because it's entirely possible, because back in the day, and I was going to ask you about this too as part of this conversation, Screen Actors Guild did provide the service where if you wrote into an actor, any actor, because the very first fan letter I ever got was from an episode of Gunsmoke I did when I was 10 years old. And it came by way of, I believe it came by way of Screen Actors Guild. It could have possibly been CBS. But the studios and the networks were very good about forwarding letters until I'm sure it got terribly expensive, because you think about that, the thousands of letters that get shuffled between all these different places. It's a huge logistics issue at a certain point. but I can't say that I didn't get the letters. It was just a time in my career when I probably wasn't necessarily reading them anymore, or they weren't
You
making it
also
past
were
me.
getting so many. I mean, at that time,
Yeah,
when you're in something like Escape to Witch Mountain or like My Little House, it was bales of stuff. It was like big tubs of like hair
like
shirt mail.
these
And we had to
big,
think, they'd
yeah,
write to NBC. And because at least we're, the NBC guys would come to the lot sometimes and go, do you want these? And there's a pile of them. So you never, I mean, there were people back then with the fan magazines like Tiger Beat and stuff. People would get hundreds or thousands of letters,
hmm,
especially cute teen boys. So yeah, you might go, well, yeah, I don't know if I got his letter. Let me go look at the pile of 2000 at my parents' house in a heap.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of really very much what it was like. And when I was a little bit younger, um, before Dion started trying to reach out to me, I made a concerted effort to read everything and sign a personal picture to all of these people if they requested one, and most people did, as you well know. So I really tried hard to do that, but we were teenagers going through our own awkward, strange life things, even if we were working professionals, and I found it to be, for me personally, it was a little difficult to manage emotionally in a way. So many people wanting something from me, so many people trying to connect with me and communicate with me, that I finally kind of had to say, I don't know that I can do this anymore. I've kind of got to stop reading these things. And I wasn't like, a Leigh Garrett or, one of these that was more in a position to perhaps have have a publicist or someone or a team of
Oh, a
people
whole
that could
team
answer
of
these
people.
things. Yeah, I mean, because there were those. I mean, definitely the Sean Cassidy's and David Cassidy's. They had to have people handle this. I wasn't in that position, so unfortunately, this stuff had to kind of go away. And here, I end up getting a phone call from my dear friend Andy Steinland, who I've known for decades, who says, I have got this story to tell you, but I have to tell you in person. And so we ended up connecting together, and he puts these letters in front of me, and I'm reading this stuff and going, oh my God, I don't believe this. I've never seen any of these things. And it turned out that once Dion had finally made, after 40 years, a personal direct connection with me. Yeah, 40 years. Yeah, 40 years. Had a direct connection with me. He had this concept to do a documentary about this entire journey of his, and
Brilliant.
and Andy asked me if I wanted to be involved. I said I'd be happy to be involved. What can I do? And he said, all you have to do is just sit down and be interviewed. And I said, absolutely, it's my pleasure. So quite literally 5 years ago, it's been a long time in the making, because it's a very much a passion project, and it's a very lovely film. I'm very much in love with it, and would love for as many people to see it as they get a chance to, not because I'm involved, because it's such a deeply personal and interesting story that so many people, I would imagine, have tried to manifest in some way, reaching
It's
out to some
totally
way, you
about the
know
nature of fame, because he's like,
yes.
okay, someone who isn't in the industry at all and isn't in Hollywood, and like I said, and this was pre-internet. I mean, now you can at least look up your celebrity and there's some like
Oh
publicist
yeah.
address. There was nothing, and he's like
Yeah.
guessing and asking his mom, well, where do I write to him? She's like, I don't know. Well, maybe the movie studio. Maybe there's like, oh, there's a thing called the screen. It's like over the years finding places to write, and for a person to go, well, I seen him on TV and I saw a magazine article. Now, if I write this, is he really going to read this? Is he like a regular person? Is he going to show up at my house and call me? Or is his secretary going to, you have no idea. You have absolutely no idea how the,
Yeah.
so you just write and send these things. And it's so strange. And then for the famous person who's going about their business, like, okay, when I was a teenager, I was pretty good. I would read stuff and we tried to do the autograph picture, but at one point it got crazy. There was a lot and I had stuff to do. I was like, working on the shows. Like so we did have one set of pictures where I autographed, and we did a printed thing where it came with the autograph, and we'd like, if it
Oh
got
yeah.
crazy, if we
Sure.
had an overload, we'd send those out. The funniest thing is I had people pretend to be me. Did you ever have people impersonate you?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you asked me this question.
I had a couple
Not
people
only
who
did
were
I
like,
have
I'm
somebody
Alison
impersonate
Arngrim.
me, I had someone impersonate me, but he ended up being brought up on federal mail fraud charges, and the FBI raided his apartment and found that he had a room that was dedicated as a shrine to me. This is a story I've never told publicly at all. Oh, it is the craziest.
This is terrifying. This
it
is
is the
terrifying.
craziest story. Yes. And the FBI contacted me, an FBI agent. I get a phone call. When you get a phone call Sunday night at 8 o'clock from the FBI, you want to talk about cold sweats? I'm like, okay. He says, yes, this is my badge number. You can feel free to double check to make sure I am who I am, but I need to ask you about this person. Do you know who he is? And I just went, yeah. He proceeds to tell me this story about him and how he's out on bail pending his sentencing hearing, but they really feel he should be behind bars now because he's been impersonating me. He sent me all these faxes, redacted faxes with communications he was doing with other celebrities and producers and trying to get movie deals made in my name out of it. It was just, I thought this is like Rod Serlingville, this is insane. So I ended up confirming with him, no, this is not me. He is definitely impersonating me. And boy, they put him in the clap. Like they put him in jail right away. So yes, I've been impersonated.
That's another movie, another documentary. I've only just kind of had sort of random kooks who want to be me. Nobody like that. But,
so I didn't mean to one up you in any way, but
horrifying. I'm like, oh thank God, I got a weird fan letter, and my dad and my other manager, Jessica, to him said, okay, you got to read this because we're reading this over and over again and trying to even figure out what this guy's even talking about. Like it literally makes no sense. And I'm like, what? And they read it to me. I went, that's insane. What is he even talking about? And finally just said, oh my God, he met someone who said she was you. What? It was dear Alison, or should I say Jackie? And we're like, what is that? Jackie, what does that even mean? And then he starts going on about a wonderful evening he had and going to bingo and all these places that he went with this girl, Jackie, who apparently it made no sense about buying a house in Schenectady. And I'm like, it was like really insane. And we finally broke down. This guy was at a party where he lives in near Schenectady, New York. And some girl maybe looked like me. And he said something like, Ari, and she went, yes, I am totally her. I'm Alison Arngrim was not, but I'm incognito. So call me Jackie. And then she proceeded to take this guy for a ride and got him to buy her stuff and take her like to dinner and movies and shows and on dates, and like just took him for everything she could get out of him in a few days and disappeared. And then he wrote to me going, what happened? Was it something I said? And we had somebody else write back to him and go, we are very sorry, but you did not meet her. And the only other one was recent. A very nice lady who I've met on Facebook and become friends with, a lovely person, said, a relative of mine when I was very young wrote to you, was like pen pals. And I'm like, trying to think, did I have a pen pal? I don't think, because teenagers, we hate to write letters, we're terrible. I'm trying to think of pen pal. And then she starts telling me about the pictures and the things that I sent this woman that she would at the family table go, I have another letter from Alison, and starts like, and I went, yeah, that's definitely not me. And she started cracking up laughing. She said, okay, I said, is this like terrible? Like, she's like, no. I always thought this relative was making it up and was a little bonkers and was pulling our leg and making this up. And the other family, no, stop it. She's totally getting these letters from Hollywood, from Nellie Olson. And she said, I don't think it's her. And they're like, shut up. So now, like literally like 45, 50 years later, she's going, hey, thank you. I thought I was losing my mind. It's like, it's totally not you. I go, it totally wasn't me. So we don't know if somebody else wrote to this woman, or if this woman like said, I'm going to create this whole universe where I'm getting letters from this person in Los Angeles and show them to my family at dinner. So I don't know. So yes, I've had like 2 occasions where that was it, but that was as weird as I think it got. And thank God nobody ripping people off, and that's like terrifying. But we were both child stars, which is a bizarre phenomenon. It's hard.
It is.
You almost can't explain it to people who weren't one and weren't there.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I've had such a hard time, even over the course of my own life, resolving what that meant to be a child star or a child actor, or or however you want to qualify it, a child performer, because I loved it. I loved my career. I wanted to do it. And the way it sort of came my way was very interesting, because I was such a shy, I was one of those introverted performers, where I was not the outgoing, kid tap dancing on the coffee table for the family. I was never that. I was very shy and introverted. But I saw what my father did, and when I started to understand what it meant, I wanted to be a part of it in any way that I possibly could. And so when it
this
was
is a crazy story, because your father had a show that Cadet Dawn, but it was in Houston back in the day when there were the Gallardis and the Hobo Kellys and the Sheriff Johns, and people had these
Hobo
local,
Kelly, of course, yeah.
Hobo Kelly, these wacky shows, and they'd show cartoons and tell stories. There was a guy, the Cadet Dawn show in Houston, but it was, you said it was like hours and hours. He had to like fill, and it was all week long, and he had this show, which nobody else knew this was happening, but in Houston, this was this like huge thing, because this guy was on practically every day, and this was your dad. So you were watching him create this like whole like weird world on TV every day.
Yeah, I had that sort of surreal experience of even as a very, very young child. I mean, from the day I was born, my father had the show before he and my mother met. Then they met, got married, I'm born, and I literally grew up being conscious of every single morning looking at the TV and seeing my dad. Then a few hours later, he would come in the door. So he went from the box to the door to the house. So it was this whole, you can imagine the childlike imagination playing around with that. But he also had me on his show when I was 2 years old for the first time. And then each birthday I had, and my brother's birthday after that, we made an appearance on the show, which was like a big thing for his audience. They ate it up. And I have, and I actually have a videotape of that appearance, but I also have very clear memories of it, and sitting there looking out, being on the set, because the Cadet Dawn show was a very sort of like space oriented kind of thing. NASA was, Mission Control was in Houston. It was a new thing. They were kind of using my father's show to do some marketing for, the whole space program. So he was essentially an astronaut, and had a puppet called, this is the hand gesture for puppet, of course. Seymour, in a spaceship, who came out and talked to the audience.
And I talked to him. Was the puppet an alien? What was the puppet?
Oh my God! If you can give me 1 second, I can show you the puppet. Would you like to see it? Real fast.
Get the puppet. Ike Eisenmann is going now to go get the hand puppet that was on his father's local affiliate show. Well, this is insane. Okay, this is Seymour, the puppet. I'm talking like the puppet, as if the puppet's talking. I spent my entire childhood with my father doing this, and talking to me, and then talking to himself, and thinking he was kind of crazy and somehow schizophrenic before I really knew what that was. But yeah, this is Seymour, handmade by my mother and my grandmother when I was a kid. Okay, so yeah, that's Seymour. One of many Seymours, because wore them out. They're just made out of felt. So he wore them out. But he's got a puppet on the show, and it's like, he was hugely popular, and he had grand designs to expand his career, even if it was in the local market, or even some syndicated markets around Texas, which didn't quite pan out for him. So he got frustrated and decided where he really wanted to go was Hollywood. So when I was 6 years old, he said, look, we're moving to Hollywood. That's it. We packed up everything and moved out to LA, and he pursued his own career. And within a few years, all of a sudden, he was struggling. It's like one thing to come from a big market and be highly popular, and then go into a huge market like Hollywood and try to gain some footing. He managed to become a working actor. He was a commercial actor, and he was doing, musical theater and all different kinds of things. Even a show was written by the Sherman Brothers and starring one of the Andrews sisters. It was so he did a lot of stuff, but all of a sudden one day he turned to me and said, would you like to do commercials? And I said, yes, I would. And he had no idea I harbored this great desire to be a part of this whole scene, because I never really said anything about it. I was, even at that age, at 9 years old, felt like I'd be stepping on my father's toes. But he invited me into the world. I got an agent, and started booking right away, and it just kind of snowballed
snowballed from there. But yeah, that was the real origin of it. And like I said, in trying to, and the success of being a working actor in Hollywood is a double-edged sword, right? There are some of our peers who didn't fare so well, and then there are those of us that managed to manage it all in a reasonable way. But we're put under an incredible amount of pressure, whether or not we understand the pressure, which I did. I think very much you did. It's still unreasonable pressure for a child to go through.
I've said child actors for a lot of it's like going to a dog fight. It's like being a pit bull and they're throwing you in the ring because like they compete. It's insane, and it's weird because like, these local markets. I mean, obviously Glardy made good when it came to LA, but it doesn't always translate. So how many people? Because there was this art form that existed at one time. There really isn't as much now, where the local stations were allowed to do what they wanted, and they had these shows, and these people became stars in their market. And then they go, well, I'm going to New York, I'm going to LA, and then nothing. Yeah. Or a handful of them, it translated. And you don't know. And that's the thing is you're a kid and you go into it, and some kids, they go to a million auditions and nothing ever happens. Or they get like a couple of parts and then it's over at 12. And then other kids just, and then suddenly, they're Roddy McDowell. You're a huge star. You do not know where that's going to go.
No idea whatsoever. And I felt really fortunate because I loved it. I loved being a part of the industry, and it was also kind of wrapped around that childhood fantasy of, you want to be an astronaut, but obviously you're a kid. You can't be an astronaut till you're an adult. So, but this was a business that you could be involved in. It was something you could be involved in as a child, as an actor, and so that was my obvious way of being a part of this fascinating world. Because I just thought movies and television, even though I knew the mechanics of it and how it worked, I found it to be a truly magical thing that I loved, and getting to play pretend and make amazing things happen that wouldn't happen in the real world necessarily was just so exciting to me. And so when I did start to work and I started booking, and I got almost addicted to it, if you will, because I found that I loved the work so much that I tried really, really hard on my auditions. And what started to fatigue me over time, and this is one of the things I wanted to share about our two different perspectives about how we grew up. I envied you guys being on a hit series because you got to work. You had your job. It was a hit show and you just got to work. You didn't have to go out and fight for the work. And I was out there watching you guys and then going on auditions, literally 2 and 3 every day for my entire childhood.
And people don't know how brutal that is. They have no idea. And that's
I did my homework on the seat of the car next to me, or in cattle calls. You're in there.
I wanted a job. I was a kid. I wanted a job. Well, what jobs are available for a 6 and 7-year-old? Actually, they'll hire you now. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you could be anything. And in my case, of course, I always tell the story that I was 11 and I wasn't booking. So you're not booking. I go to all these auditions. I'd done a movie. I'd done a bunch of stuff. 10 years old. And then a whole year, I wasn't working. And my father sitting me down to say, well, you might not work again, because with child actor sometimes it just stops around this age, or maybe you work when you're 18, and giving me the basically your career was over speech. And then I got Little House on the Prairie. So I mean, like I always say, Little House was the comeback. But I was jealous because you said being things you can't be. You in Escape to Witch Mountain got to play an alien, a space alien hiding out as a human being with magical telekinetic powers. I so wanted to have a role. I wanted to be an alien. Do you know how many I wanted? Because I used to watch like I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched. I wanted to get food for Tinka Tinka Tea or woo or something. I wanted to make like the table fly around the room. I wanted to be in a show where I had magical powers or played an alien. So I was like, oh, score that you got that. So.
Oh, I completely freaked out because it was beyond a dream come true for me, because once I started into the business, and then I realized, okay, I'm working on Gunsmoke, and I'm doing like Kung Fu with David Carradine, and I'm on these shows that I watched and really admired and enjoyed. I suddenly realized one day, well, Disney, all the Disney movies that I love so much, they're a studio. There's no reason why I shouldn't get a chance to be in something like that. So I started to become obsessed with wanting to be a part of anything at Disney. And when I got my first audition at Disney, I thought, this is it. This is it. I'm in. I'm all over. I'm going to work for the Disney Studios. And I didn't get it. I didn't even get a call back. And then I got my next audition. I didn't get that one. And then the next one. And I started to go kind of crazy. And when Witch Mountain came up, I had no idea, because Disney had a weird thing. I don't know if you ever auditioned there for anything, but they never told you what you were auditioning for. They would give you sides.
For child actors, sometimes you were told, okay, it's about blah, 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 here's the sides. The number of times I showed up and I'm like, they're going to tell me anything here. And they like threw pages. They didn't tell me anything about Nellie Olson. Not a darn.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I knew first I had to go see where it was, we're making this show about these books, which I had not read. So I'm like, and then I read for the part of Laura and the part of Mary and Alison. And then they made the pilot, because everybody read the part of Laura and Mary. And then they made the pilot. So I went on about my business going, well, okay. And then I get this call and they're saying Little House on the Prairie. And I went, no, we did that. No, wait, it's how many people are in this thing? What? And not a clue, never didn't know there was an Ellie Olsen, because Dum didn't read the book. So I get there and I was handed the sides and went, oh my God, she's awful. And of course, nailed it and read it cold and killed it and got the job. So, but yeah, when you're a kid, an adult, they would like, well, here's what the show's about. But for kids, it was like, well, here's her sides.
It's almost like they didn't feel the need to explain it to you, as if we couldn't process that in some way.
Like we're trained.
So I didn't even know what I was reading for necessarily when Witch Mountain happened, and then I ended up getting called back for a screen test, which was extraordinary. And then I got it, and I did read the book, because I learned that it was based upon a book. And when I read the script, I was over the moon, because I thought, it's all these special effects. I mean, I get to jump and make things fly, and all these things are going to happen. And that was part of the whole fantasy about being in the business, was getting to be a part of all the amazing special effects. And so
how old were you at this point?
11 years old. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, Rick, 11 years old, and you're going, oh, man, I'm not getting a gig at Disney. I've been to these auditions. I need to get into the studio. You're 11. You're 11.
Exactly.
And you're freaking yourself out with career pressure because you couldn't get into Disney.
Yeah. And you're worried that your career at the same age, right?
It's like,
this is the kind of stuff that we're right. Exactly. So yeah, no, I mean, getting to be in a Disney movie, let alone co-star in a Disney movie, let alone co-star in a Disney movie where I play an alien and I get to do all these amazing things, was just, and I even say this in the documentary, and I hope those of you who are in LA get a chance to go see it, just because it really is lovely. But I do say, and I always say this, it was more fun working on that movie than a child should be allowed to have. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. And my first day at work, I had to jump, 12 feet in the air and catch a softball attached to wires, and it's just like, nobody gets to do that. There's very few people get to do that, especially back in those days. There weren't as many films that were, and Disney movies were very much effects centric in many ways, whether it was the computer or tennis shoes or Flubber or Herbie the Love Bug or whatever.
Bang Bang, for that matter, Mary Poppins. It was all things.
Yeah. And so, as a matter of fact, gosh, his name's escaping me, but the same man that designed and built the rig for Mary Poppins was on set with me and helping me do all of the rig work. And so it was just being just so entrenched in the incredible legacy of the studio was just beyond anything that I could have. I did well imagine it, but I never really imagined that it would happen. So it was extraordinary and so much fun.
And you got into Disney because then they did do other things. They did do sequels, and you actually came back, because when they did the was it Race to Witch Mountain, the modern one, where a whole new reboot, and they let you be in it. They let you come in and be in it.
Yes, I was so excited. Andy Fickman directed that film, and I got a phone call from him one day. It was a few weeks before they were going to start shooting, and said, "Hey, I'm doing this reimagining of Witch Mountain, and it's called Race to Witch Mountain, and we've got a part for you and Kim, and we'd love to know if you want to be a part of it." And I said, "Are you kidding? I mean, are you kidding?" Yes. And I had been aware that Hollywood, or the studio, Disney Studios, had been trying to come up with some form of a remake for at least 10 years. The rumors started very early on. David Nutter from X-Files was one of the first directors attached to the project, and his script wasn't picked up by them, so it moved into other hands. And then eventually Gunn Films got found a way to tell the story that the Disney the studio bought, and it turned into Race to Witch Mountain. And I just had a blast. It was a very surreal experience working on it, because Andy said to me, "Look, I'm a huge Witch Mountain fan. I always have been. I'm so excited to be doing this. You're gonna meet pretty much everybody on the show is a fan of the original films and of you and Kim. So I'm just like kind of forewarning you about that." And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. So I show up for work my first day, and I walk onto the stage, and all of a sudden people start saying, Tony, oh my God, it's Tony, and literally everyone stopped and came over to shake my hand, to meet me, to say how much they love the film. And it was like, okay, this is a setup. This is some kind of setup. This
real.
We're not really shooting a movie. They're just doing a scene so that everybody can like meet Kim and I. And then when Kim showed up right after I did, it was just like old home week for us, and everyone just was so incredibly gracious and shared with each of us their own personal memories about the film and what it meant to them. And it was really, and I'm getting a little choked up just thinking about it, because it was so overwhelming. I mean, that film has had such an outpouring for me from so many different areas. And it was so unique because it was, it was, and again, just referring back to the Dear Ike documentary, even Andy Steinland, who's interviewed, and it talks about how it was a movie that really appealed to all, the outcast and all of us, because we were playing two kids that didn't know where we came from. We were cast out by everyone. We have these powers that we had to hide. And so, so many people these days, not even these days, but have historically gone through that, hiding your specialness, because it's going to make you an oddball. Your specialness for some reason can make you an oddball, and therefore subject to bullying and all of that. And so it really touched so many people. And it took me a bit of the arc of my life to completely understand that, as it related to people and how many generations this crossed over to. So then when I show up on that set and all these people, younger people and older people, they're just going crazy, I was overwhelmed, and it was such an honor and so much fun to do.
And it's true. It's those kind of films, and the ones that are hits and resonate are the ones where people who feel that they're different, that nobody understands them. And that's why sci-fi and these kind of fantasy pieces, it's like, well, I feel something like I am an alien with magic. That, these characters, they resonate, and people don't realize that. That's why those things are hits. That's why people do get very emotionally involved, and you guys pulled it off. And then also Jealous, Star Trek too.
Oh.
I want to do like, just even like, that's it. My friends who've done like one episode, like 2 lines, anything, anywhere within 100 feet of Star Trek or a sci-fi thing, then you can go to like every Comic Con in the universe, because you're like a Star Trek person. You have the mark on you now. And I've always been like, So Wrath of Khan, what the heck happened there?
Oh, it was again like one of those things where I dared to dream about being a part of, Disney Studios, and then it happened. And I dared to dream about being part of Star Trek, and then it happened. It was just another audition. It was just another audition in my life. My agent called, and I had read about the second film being made in the trades, of course. They'd been talking about it, and I was one of those rare fans of the first Star Trek movie. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I have been since I was a kid. Watched the show when it was first on the air, when I didn't even really know what was going on. In syndication, I've consumed it to death. So I was so excited about the first film, and I thought, of course, they should be making movies. And then when it wasn't very critically accepted by the fans and was kind of rejected in a huge way, I thought, well, that's the end of that. And then I heard about the sequel, the second film being produced. Then I get a phone call, and I'm going to read for it. And I thought, oh my God, I am going to bust my rear end for this audition. And I, again, only the pages that you get to read. I had no idea what the story was about, the script was, the extent of the character, or anything like that. But I went in and I acted myself like mad. Got a call back again, of course, then moved up the food chain and then got the part. And I said, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to be in a Star Trek movie. And I get the script and I'm reading it. And then it's like, I die. And I was, oh, no, I haven't even started to shoot and I'm already done. My Star Trek career is over. But I thought, no, this is awesome. I get to be a part of this. This is going to be a blast. I knew that I was going to get to see it's just like a geek. I'm going to get to see the bridge and I'm going to get to meet the original cast and I get to work with them all. And so it was just, again, it was just like playing dress up as an adult, right? It's like cosplay for real, right? With Star Trek.
And so that's the thing, you appreciate stuff like this. I mean, so many of our child actor friends, some of them were in it, they didn't want to be in it. Somebody was like, you're gonna get to this audition, kids, whether you like it or not. And I mean, that's like hell, right? That happens. Or their parents stole all their money, or they were treated badly on the set. That's no fun. So people say, hey, do you like being in the show? And they go like, no, not really, because it was like a nightmare. But when it's not a nightmare, if it's like a show, it's like sometimes you get lucky and you get on the good shows. And if you appreciate it, you're like, I get to, like I always say about Little House, I got to go down a hill in a wheelchair. When was the last time you saw anyone do that? You're someone who appreciates all the wackadoo things you got to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. And it was like one crazy, overwhelming thing after another. I've got this amazing costume, and then I had to have the special effects makeup put on, which was a really hilarious story. The makeup department had decided to come up with some new process for this film. They wanted futuristic burns and wounds on these characters in these battles, right? So they were trying out some new, it was a gelatin based goop that took about 90 minutes to put on. Like once I got burned in the battle, in the accident, I had burns like on the upper part of my body, my shoulder, and my face. So they put all this goop on me, putting blood into it as it went along, and I was eating it up. I just loved it. This is so great. I could sit back and turn into a monster. The only initial bad part about it was when I had my makeup on, no one would sit with me. They wouldn't sit with me, and they certainly wouldn't eat with me. So I had to go do everything by myself because I looked so disgusting. But after the first day of shooting with that makeup, at the end of the day, I said, okay, I'm done for the day. I'm here to have my makeup taken off. And they said, oh no, we don't take it off. We're going to send you into the showers because
we don't do that part.
No, we don't do that because this is why we created it, because it's hard to put on, but very easy to take off. You just get in the warm water and it'll wash right off of you. So on the Paramount lot, one of the stage where our dressing rooms were set up had this the makeup area. And then towards the back was dressing area and all these showers. So I was literally sent with a bar of soap and a couple of towels, and they sent me back there, and I started to try to take this makeup off, and it would not come off. I'm in the hot water and I'm clawing at it, I'm soaping up, and I'm clawing at it, I'm soaping up. I was in there for 90 minutes, and they have obviously one of the biggest boilers on the planet at Paramount, because I never ran out of hot water. But it took me all that time to claw all the makeup off. And I thought, I got to go tell these guys that this stuff is a mess, because I was the guinea pig. I was the first person they put the makeup on. So I thought, this is great. That I thought would be fun too. But when I finally got back onto the stage to report in, the production had shut down for the day. All the stage lights were off. They had left me completely alone there. The second AD forgot.
You went to the shower and they didn't check to see if you're okay.
Nope. They didn't check on me at all. They just left me up to my own devices, and I was just like, I can't. This is show business. This is show business, right?
That's how they do. So you're on your own. But yeah, that's the problem is that they don't want to take this stuff off. I had like fun stuff like bruises on Little House. I had it. There was Nellie got a black eye once. Had the big bruise on my head. The wheelchair. I love that
Yeah.
thing. I didn't want to take it off. I went home, scared my mother. I was like, oh look, it's real. So yeah, no, I love that stuff. And then you did grace us with your presence on Little House on the Prairie. I was mean to you. Was I to you? Because you weren't you a poor immigrant child, so I was cruel.
Yeah, well, I think you were cruel to everybody, so that wasn't a big surprise. But again, that was like you're hitting the trifecta of my fantasy shows, because I, like everyone else, we watched Little House religiously, loved the show, and I thought, but I was kind of a greedy child actor. I wanted to be on everything that I saw that I liked. So of course I wanted to be on Little House. When I got a chance to audition for it, I was very happy that I booked the part. And look, I don't mind being, when you're up there playing, you don't mind being one way or the other. I didn't mind being the bullied immigrant child in any way, shape, or form. It was lovely because I got to work with Theodore Bikel, the amazing star and actor, and just seeing all of you guys. I mean, that was the thing. I'm not often starstruck. I hate to use that word, because I was only starstruck once where I couldn't speak. And it was someone that I didn't work with, but was in a film I was working in. It was Malcolm McDowell, of all people.
That would do it.
For some reason, I'm going to digress for a moment, because I had to introduce him to someone and some other people, because I bumped into him and I knew he was working on the film. It was Cross Creek, a film I did in the early 80s with Mary Steenburgen. And they were married at the time, so he agreed to play a small part in the film. And they were at a restaurant that I walked into with with some friends. And all of a sudden I saw him for the first time. And I'm like one of those crazy fans of A Clockwork Orange, that I've consumed entirely too much for anyone's good. But when I saw him, it was just like, oh my God, it's Alex. It's Alex DeBarge. I just went, well, this is my friend. I forgot my friend's name. So that was the only time I was starstruck. And then I stumbled a little bit, and then I got past it, and then finally was able to do the introductions. But anyway, seeing you guys was, much like meeting the Star Trek original cast. It was like, this is the cast of Lost in the Prairie, for goodness sakes. And I was so excited, and I was so happy to be there. And I walked in, and I was, in my first day, and I was instantly, it was like having, a wonderful host, come and take care of you. The second AD that met with me said, "Oh, you're Ike. Oh, come on over here. Here's the makeup table. I'm going to introduce you to everyone."
Yes, that's how we were like, come with us. Yes, would you like an hors d'oeuvre? Come this way.
You were not actually, I don't think you were at the makeup table when this occurred, but Melissa Gilbert was there. Matthew was there. Matthew Labrato, for those of you who don't know. Right. And I saw the back of another head at the far end, and the AD says, you guys, this is Ike Eisenmann. He's our guest on the show. He's playing this character. I can't even pronounce the name of my character. You can, though. And, Melissa Gilbert says, "Hi, I'm Melissa." And then Matthew says, "Hi, I'm Labrato." Matthew. And then Melissa Sue Anderson turns around and she says, "Weren't you the kid in that Witch Mountain movie?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Willie Ames and I were supposed to do that, but we had previous commitments, so we turned it down." And she
did not.
She turned right back around, and I kid you not, because it was so shocking to me. I've never forgotten this. Melissa Gilbert turns to me and she says, "That's Missy. Welcome to the show."
Kind of completely banana boats of the competition, the insane competition these children are put in, that a young girl, what was she, probably like 11, 12 or something ridiculous.
I'm not even really sure. And all I could think of was wow, like, hi, nice to meet you, but you're on a hit freaking series.
You could say good morning. You could say, "Oh, Witch Mountain." Oh, darn! I was almost in that. Ha ha! That would be like a normal person. No, the competition was so deadly that this girl who would probably not even out of junior high turned around and went, "I was supposed to do that film, but I like it's like gonna kill you." over a movie.
But it sounded like she was bitter about it for some reason.
6 o'clock in the morning or something ridiculous.
Oh yeah. So that was the only shocking thing that I encountered when I hit the set, and I thought, okay, that's fine. And then I went on and got dressed and got my makeup on, and then when I hit the set, it was like being in a dream. That crew, you guys, and we talked about this when I had you on our podcast as well. It was just like it was like the best crew I've ever seen. So efficient. They knew how to play. They knew how to go to work. They knew how to turn it on, turn it off, and turn it back on again, whichever way the switch had to be thrown. All of you did.
We would be
all of you
doing a scene and break tension. People would tell jokes. Michael would tell terrible jokes. We'd all do, and we'd be like going, bah ha ha. Okay, everybody back places. We're doing. Oh, okay. Snap, and like suddenly action. We're in the scene, and then it's like 5 minutes later. So you want to go for Slurpees later? It's like.
No, it was truly amazing and so comforting, and it of course a huge contrast from the facial I got from Melissa, but just working on it.
Mr. Gilbert then said, and that's Missy.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome. It was like boom, like. So I said, okay, so everybody knows this. I'm not going to worry about it too much, and I didn't see her anymore after that. And but I had so much fun doing it. And then when I was asked back, it was 2 years later for the second episode I did, they just the production just called my agent and said, is Ike available? And that was one of there's so many things to love about Michael Landon and the way he ran a production, but that was one that I deeply appreciated about him. He was not afraid of using people he knew, using them repeatedly, bringing them back.
No, he loved that. He loved that. He had someone and he knew they could deliver. It was like, okay, well, let's just call them because they saved me a trip and saved me. But that was also funny because you played, it was another poor immigrant child. And it was like, wait, so it's the same guy. And this is something that we've been joking about on Facebook because there's like now all these pages for Little House and there's like a Little House bloopers page. Now everyone is watching the show because it's streaming and it's on Blu-ray, DVD, and they're watching episodes over and over and over again, back to back. They're slow-mo, they're freeze framing, they're watching episodes like from this year and going, hey, wait a minute. Because in the 70s, there was no DVDs, there was no VCR, there was no cable. You watched a show and you didn't see that again for another year. And so if 2 years later they brought that actor, who's going to notice? What I said, what are they going to do? Watch the episodes back to back, ha ha ha, and compare. Now people are literally watching back to back and going, wait, they just talked about this guy, and now wait, he's not in the thing, and then he's the same guy and it's insane now, but like who knew then? So people would come back and play. Well, because Matt was Charles Ingalls as a child.
Right. Yes,
and then
of course.
miraculously appeared as Orphan Albert. So like we did that all the time.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, you could totally get away with that then. I mean, our family was part of the video age because the Betamax machines were out. And so we had Betamax recorders and I would record all my shows and stuff, but you couldn't hang on to things for very long because tape was, expensive. So it's like you couldn't like just collect all these shows unless you were a little bit more wealthy and watch them over and over again. So yeah, you could totally get away with that. But I see, of course, people are, and they're of course obsessed in a good way with Little House. As a matter of fact, I have fans that only know me from Little House. They don't know me from they don't know me from Witch Mountain or Star Trek or anything else, but they know me from Little House.
You also were you were a teen idol, and I know you really don't think of yourself as someone who's a teen idol, but you were in 16 and Tiger Beat and all of those magazines, and people were. I tell you, when I put on Facebook, I saw Ike Eisenmann. I love him. The number of people are like, I was in love with him. He was the biggest crush, and he's so beautiful. And so people love you. How weird is that? Because nobody loved me. People hated me. I was a cute girl, but people didn't say, "Oh, you're so pretty." They were like, "You're disgusting. I hate you."
I don't believe that for a second. I'm sorry.
You.
Well, that's very sweet.
They love me now. They did not love me then. They loved you. They loved you.
They were scared of you. They might not have. They might have loved you, but with a healthy dose of fear.
Right? What is it like though to have like you're picturing the Tiger Beat where people go, this person is a sex symbol, an icon that you should have romantic feelings toward?
Well, that is such a strange thing, because that's also a category of celebrity that's very, very odd. I don't think I think I wasn't in as many magazines as you might think I was. They did do little feature articles about me a few times. 16 did. And I don't think I was actually ever in Tiger Beat magazine. I was in 16. But I also, and I kind of learned what being a teen idol truly meant. I mean, there were only so many of us teenage boys and girls, right, at the time. It was a very small, fairly small group. And so they kind of, and I don't want this to sound like that I'm taking something away from myself regarding this necessarily, but they had to kind of mine that repeatedly to keep the magazines selling.
Right.
But we ended up having Ann Moses, who was the first editor of Tiger Beat, on our show, and she defined what it meant to truly be a teen idol. You not only had to have a TV show, a hit TV show, but you also had to be a musician and a singer. So if you didn't have those two things, if you weren't, the Bay City Rollers were pretty much just a music group. They didn't do any performing, but if you were David Cassidy or Sean Cassidy or Leif Garrett or some of these young men who were incredibly talented and did all kinds of different things, that's what truly defined a teen idol. But I can't help but be flattered by the idea. I'm not going to lie to you.
We're almost done. So what are you doing? Where can people find you? You're working on a book. Please say you're working on a book.
Yes. I'm finishing up a memoir that we're going to be shopping at the beginning of next year. And it's like, and I've even told you this, your memoir, which is absolutely brilliant, one of my favorites that I have ever read. I read yours in great earnest so that I could say, here's what I can't do. I can't do this. I'm going to approach my memoir from a completely different direction, because this is just too good and I don't want to be compared to hers. So there's that. But anyway, we'll see if I succeeded in that or not. Okay. But
where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook.
DearIke.com is a documentary. So everybody go to DearIke.com and read about this.
I have a Facebook fan page. If you just search for my name on Facebook, Instagram, and I literally just got a Twitter account today. So I haven't posted anything.
I went to tweet about this and you weren't there. I couldn't tag you.
No. I finally had to join the club. So but yeah, it's IKE_EISENMANN at both Instagram and Twitter, and then Facebook, it's just at my name. You can find me easily. It's not that hard. They will. But then we've got our podcast, Pop Culture Retro, and we post them every Wednesday. We're having amazing guests. We had Tommy Chong last week. Of course, we had you 2 weeks ago, and we just recorded yesterday the amazing Kreskin, and it was an incredible show. So yeah, it's very retro pop culture stuff, but we're having a great time with it. Jonathan Rosen is my co-host. He's a wonderful author, and we're just having a blast doing that. So
you're going to hear from everybody, because they were all over my page going, I love him. So yes, you'll hear from them all. Thank you for coming on my show. You are delightful as always, ladies and gentlemen. Ike Eisenmann, and I'm Alison Arngrim, and this is the Alison Arngrim Show.
I found my way home across the Grand Mirage. Ever since departure.